May you always measure your creativity by joy, not perfection. This is the inspiration behind Sonnet's Garden Blooms February's Maker's Box. Hi, I'm Sylvia from Backyard Brushes in Fountain City, Wisconsin. And in today's video, I am repurposing 3 items using materials from the February's Maker's Box. So let's roll up our sleeves and let's get creating. From recycled decoupage paper, we have weathered farmhouse planks and garden on the scales. From Connie the Painted Photographer, we have early snowdrop and balanced beginning rice papers. For Sweet Pickins milk paint, we have mercantile. For DIY paint, we'll be using cake batter and skeleton key. Fusion mineral paint, we have coral and chocolate. And every month, we have a thank you card and a napkin from Sonnet, along with the digital press. For project 1, I picked up a wood frame previously at the thrift store. And I remember I picked it out just because I loved the wood. And I can always use another frame, right? Who couldn't? So I started by just separating the pieces of the frame. And off camera, I did clean the glass piece of the frame. I just didn't do it on camera because I didn't need any evidence that I can do windows or mirrors or can clean glass. And Connie always creates her rice papers using DIY paint. And so I decided to use the DIY paint for this project, and it's super easy. Using a bristle brush, I just rubbed on some of the cake batter around the frame, and I dry brushed it on. Then using some Vaseline, I just went over and added Vaseline over the dry cake batter DIY paint. And then I gave it a good coating of the skeleton key. And I used the heat gun to dry the skeleton key paint. And it also, activates like the Vaseline. And it the skeleton key does not adhere to the Vaseline. So it comes off very easily with the sander when it's dry. And then I just used a baby wipe to wipe off all the extra dust. And I also always do the back of my projects. So I use the same method on the back of the frame so that it has a complete look. And I sealed the frame in Big Top by DIY. Using Connie's Balanced Beginnings rice paper, I sized up the rice paper with the photo they insert in the frame, and I just cut the rice paper to fit the picture frame. I placed the photo frame together, making sure that the hook on the top of the frame matched up with my paper, so I didn't have to do it again when I flip it over and see that I framed it upside down, because obviously I've done that several times. So I placed the picture in the frame, and I was able to secure the frame, and the project is done, and it really was that easy. And I have new decor for my office. I decided I'm not selling this picture, and I'm keeping it for myself. For project 2, I'm going to repurpose this picnic basket I picked up at a local thrift store, and I only paid $2 for it. I have a couple other picnic baskets that were in better shape, but I've always been kind of intimidated to give it a try. And this one, again, was only $2. And when I saw it, I thought of these papers. So I started out by using Vaseline, and I covered up the metal pieces around the picnic basket. I like the look of the metal versus just painting over the metal. And using the Vaseline, the paint doesn't adhere, so if I get paint on the metal, I can just wipe it off. Using a sponge brush, and then, well, I later switched to a regular brush because it was much easier. I added the Fusion Antiquing glaze, and I painted the whole outside and inside of the picnic basket. And there was this little stand that came with the picnic basket, and I also painted / stained the wood with the antiquing glaze also, and it really did make the basket like pop. It didn't seem so faded and dried out. That antiquing glaze just, I don't know, brought it back to life and darkened it up. I then decided to use DIY's, I think it's Farm Fresh. It's a green that we had previously used in our basket that I didn't finish using. And I just felt like green versus the coral or the brown. And I just went around the edges of the basket, the handles, and the inside of the lid. For the top of the picnic basket, I just squirted some Rust-Oleum white linen chalk paint right on top of the basket. I used a smaller brush, and I just went around the edges of the basket. And then I used a larger brush to fill in the top of the basket, and I let it dry. Since I would be applying the decoupage paper, I wanted to make sure it had like a lighter background so the decoupage paper would pop. I then used DIY liquid patina to adhere the decoupage paper. When I first cut out my paper, I was all excited. It fit perfectly. And then I realized the scale would be sideways, and I wanted it to be so when you opened the picnic basket, the scale would be facing you and not sideways. So I cut up the decoupage paper a little bit more, and I adjusted. So using the DIY liquid patina, I applied the decoupage paper, and I misted the decoupage paper first, laid down some liquid patina, laid down the decoupage paper, smoothed it out with my hands, and I just went across the top of the basket. And then on the edges, I used scrap. Well, I shouldn't say scrap. I used the pieces that I cut off from the top of the paper, and I applied it to the side of the basket. And that's what's really nice about this decoupage paper by Royce, is how well it goes together and how you can layer it in different situations. So instead of the grocery department being on top of the scale, it's now on the side. And it kind of reminds me of the farm stripes going down like on a tea towel. And I just used my finger sander, and in an up and down motion, I went around the whole picnic basket. I coated the top of the picnic basket with DIY liquid patina to completely seal. Then I discovered, this is my first time using the Sweet Pickins beeswax, and this is in dark. And I just went around with this makeup brush in a circular fashion. And let me tell you, I think this wax, not only does it smell good, but it just seems so soft and smooth. And I think this wax might be my new favorite wax. I then did the same process I wiped on the wax around all of the green, and then I just used a shop towel to take off the excess. And here you can see what it looked like with the wax on the left prior to waxing the other handle, the difference between before and after. And I made sure to do the inside of the basket also using the wax. And I was just going around in a circular motion. And I did the inside also because I just feel like it completes the feel of the basket when everything is done, not just the outside or the front. And I just wiped it down with that shop towel. And the beeswax sealed the paint. And I don't think I'll be as intimidated by picnic baskets in the future. Now, project 3 actually turned out to be my favorite project. And I started out with this pie tin, which are a dime a dozen at the thrift stores. And I used a sponge brush and I covered it with the Salvation solution by DIY, and I let it sit and dry overnight. The Salvation solution will help the paint adhere to the metal. I then used the skeleton key and I went around the edge of the pie pan, and then I painted the sides, the top, and the back with the skeleton key by DIY. It did take 2 coats of paint. Using the Rust-Oleum white linen chalk paint, I painted the inside of the pie pan. I was not concerned about it being a perfect circle or perfectly painted because I knew I'd be decoupaging over it. Using a 1-to-1 ratio, paint to water, I mixed 1 part of the Mercantile Sweet Pickens milk paint with 2 parts of the Basil Sweet Pickens milk paint, which we had received previously in a previous maker's box. And I had decided I wanted a green, but I didn't want it as dark as the basil usually is. So while my Sweet Pickens was sitting, I painted the back of the tin. And then once that was dry, I used the Vaseline and I just randomly smeared it over the skeleton key by DIY. Then using the chocolate fusion paint, I gave the front and back sides a coat of the chocolate paint. I applied heat, and that's where the paint started peeling off of the skeleton key paint. It was separated by the Vaseline, and with the heat applied, it just started to peel right off. And I used that finger sander to take some of that paint off as it was starting to peel off. It was just easier using the sander. I then decided, I'm just layering it up, people. I decided to use the beeswax bar, which it serves the same purpose as the Vaseline. And I gave the pie pan 2 coats of the Sweet Pickens milk paint. And again, I did the back, the sides, and the front, 2 coats. I applied heat, and I knew because I was using the pie pan, the heat and it's metal, it gets really hot, so you have to be careful not to burn yourself. I didn't realize I ran out of battery. So you can see I had the chipping around the paint. I printed out a digital press at 80% scaled. I used the pie pan, traced a circle, and then using the wet tear method, I went around the circle and I ripped out the part of the digital press. And I loved this picture. It had like so many of my favorite things, and it really does remind me of my creative community. And it even had daisies on it, which is my favorite flower. I used liquid patina DIY to adhere the decoupage paper to the center of the pie pan. And another thing about the digital press, you can print out as many of the pictures that you want, and there's usually 5 of them. And you can use the scaling on your printer to resize the picture if needed for your project. After I had the picture adhered to the pan, I used a brush and I tapped the chocolate around the edges of the pie pan to help eliminate, I don't know, the panty lines, I guess you could call it, the paper lines, just to help blend that paper into the pie pan. Using the matte golden, I gave the top part of the decoupage paper, the rice paper, a coating of the medium just to protect it a little bit more, since I was going to seal the paint with the Sweet Pickins oil. I applied the oil around the paint using an old brush. And in the crevices, if I got too much oil, I did use a paper towel to pick some of that up. And I just made sure that the milk paint was completely covered in the oil. And I let it sit for at least 20 minutes before I went back with a shop rag and I absorbed the paint, or the oil, the excess oil. I did use E6000 to glue a sawtooth hook to the back of the pan, and this will also be hanging in my office to remind me of all my creative peeps and my favorite things. And I would love to know which one of these projects was your favorite, and if I helped inspire you to give it a try. So please let me know in the comments below. I was surprised, actually. By far, my favorite was the pie tin, and my mind has just been racing with ideas that I can further create. If you're not getting the Sonnet's Maker's Box, and you're interested, I will leave a link in the description below so that you can skip the waiting list and start receiving your box today. And if you found this video inspirational, please hit subscribe below and follow me along on my creative journey. Thank you.